engines are fired up, ready to go here. It rained a lot, and there may be puddles in some areas of the racetrack, but it is okay to start the race on. They will go around 3 times before they get their green flag instead of 2.
And Bob, you talked about it being declared a wet start. That means you're required by the rules. You have to start on the rain tires.
Let's take a look at this 2.536-mile 11-turn street course.
We've talked about how it's the largest city in South America, and there's 7 million vehicles that typically are in the city and run on these roads. But today, not the case. The streets of Sao Paulo, very unique in that 8 of these corners are down to first gear. But check out this back straightaway, the longest place, any place that the Indy cars run, almost a mile long, 180 miles an hour. Now, it's different than last year because remember, the Sambadrome straightaway last year was a little bit of a slippery dance floor, certainly for Ryan Briscoe. This is going in a straight line. He can't even keep it straight. It wasn't just Ryan Briscoe. Look at Tony Kanaan's on board. When they first got here, there was just no grip on this straightaway. Everything, woo, look out, baby, I'm on a slick track. And they therefore had to delay qualifying. Look at yesterday, though. The first time they hit the track, it had been pre-ground this year in the same way that you would grind an airport runway with radial grinding. Lots of grip for Vitor Meira, but look at the end here. There's a transition, a big bump for Scott Dixon, put him down the escape road overnight. They have ground that down and made it about 20% better, Wally.
But you know what? With all that grinding, not going to matter right now because it's pretty slick. It's just wet. But this back straightaway, it's just a driver's dream right here. Like Don said, it's almost a mile long. I mean, you are flying down this back stretch. What a great shot from Tony Kanaan here. About 93 passes for position last year at this race. And the great thing about this corner you're coming up on, it's very wide, it's very smooth. Turn 11 and shoots you back on the straightaway. It's a great place to overtake. As you see here from a shot from last year, there's a lot of room to do some outbraking, and we're going to see a ton of it today.
A lot of good passing zones here at Sao Paulo, and wow, the fog and the cars are lifting a spray, and this is going to be interesting with the visibility problems at the start of the race. The cars, as you can see, are on track.
That's the hardest thing about racing in the rain. I mean, Jan and I, we've done it. I love driving in the rain, but the hardest thing is seeing, and that's where you want to be up front. You get down that long back straightaway like we were just talking about, and the water that comes off the back of these cars just blinds the guys behind them. So you can imagine being about 7 or 8 rows back. It's going to be tough.
Well, let's take a look at the Mothers Poly starting grid. As we have documented, Will Power won his 4th consecutive pole position yesterday to start the season. Ryan Hunter-Reay, who finished 2nd here last year, will start in 2nd position. Row number 2, Scott Dixon and Ryan Briscoe. The 3rd row has Graham Rahal and Dario Franchitti.
And Graham Rahal has had a bounce in his step all weekend. He loved the car when it was unloaded off the trailer. He's been fast, but how will it perform in the wet?
A couple of drivers who have had their meeting on track earlier this year. Elio Castroneves and Justin Wilson back in row number 4. In the 5th row, the winner 2 weekends ago, Mike Conway and Takuma Sato. Starting back in row number 6, it's James Hinchcliffe and Sebastian Bourdais.
And how about James Hinchcliffe? He's been a breath of fresh air in this series. He stepped in the Newman Haas car. He's impressed everybody. I mean, this guy is a rookie, but you would think he's been running this series for years, so he is doing a great job.
In the 7th row, Simona Di Silvestro and Vitor Meira, one of the hometown favorites. Marco Andretti and Oriol Servia will start in row number 8. Back in the 9th row, you find Danica Patrick and rookie Charlie Kimball. Row number 10, Rafael Matos and Alex Tagliani, a Brazilian and a Canadian. In the 11th row, Tony Kanaan and J.R. Hildebrand. The 12th row has Sebastian Saavedra and James Jakes, 2 rookies. And back in the last row, Anna Beatrice and E.J. Viso, who did not qualify yesterday because he had a rather scary-looking incident, but they prepared the backup car, and he'll start in 26th position.
And for this week's Sunoco pit strategy, of course, I calculated all these numbers in the dry. I just did a recalculation for the wet. That range will be 25 now to probably 30 laps if it stays this wet. Of course, what that does is that opens up those pit windows, gives you more opportunity to hit pit road, and because it's wet, it'll be a 2-hour timed race for a maximum. Kevin?
Kyle Moyer calls the strategy for Ryan Hunter-Reay, who starts second. Well, with the wet conditions, the big question is, when do you go to the dries, assuming it doesn't rain anymore? So you really have to earn your money today.
Well, I think it will rain again today. It's going to rain off and on, so who knows? I mean, we're just watching exactly where the track is, just like everybody at home on the TV. But I'll tell you, I mean, you're going to have to get to them pretty quick. I mean, the new asphalt's going to dry pretty quick. You're going to probably get a dry track, and definitely slicks are quicker around here. That proved last year. So as soon as you can feel comfortable without making a mistake, but I think we're going to have some yellows before then.
One of the other big questions, because we have a straightaway that's almost a mile long and another that's almost as long as the straightaway at Indianapolis, is the level of downforce you put in. How do you come up with the right downforce level?
Well, I think it was a big concern before when it was dry. Now when it's wet, it's even a more concern because you need the downforce in the wet. It's going to take at least 20 laps for this track to grip up now. And so you're going to need the downforce, but, you know, lap 70, if I'm sitting second, I don't want the downforce. I want to get by somebody.
All right, good luck today.
Thanks.
Kyle Moyer with Andretti Autosport. Someone else to watch for. Now coming again from the back is Tony Kanaan. He qualified 15th yesterday, but penalized and moved to 21st. During qualifying, they changed the front wing and nose cone, and that is not allowed. So his laps after the nose cone change were disallowed. He had to stand on the early laps. That moved him back to 21st. Bad for him, good for us. We remember at Barber when he started 24th and was up to 14th on the first lap. So we'll watch Kanaan coming from 21st in his hometown.
And we have now less than a lap to go before we get the green flag, and you notice that we will have some color changes this week here. We go on with our onboard cameras, and here is looking out the back of J.R. Hildebrandt's car, the National Guard sponsored machine. Also, the car that we just spoke of in the, what we like to call coyote orange. It kind of reminds us of the colors that A.J. Foyt flew for many years. That's Tony Kanaan starting back in 21st position. Vitor Meira had a podium finish here last year, hoping to move up a couple of spots this year. He's driving the ABC Supply Company Special. Penske Logistics is the sponsor this week on Ryan Briscoe's car. And we also have onboard cameras with the two front row starters. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay, and there you see the pole sitter, Will Powers. And we get set to go.
And yes, these cameras will face forward, but if they were right now, you wouldn't be able to see anything. That's why they're all out in the back.
They go through this complex of turns here that leads to the back straightaway. What do you think, guys? Will we see Will Power go to victory again today, or is this rain going to be a very significant factor?
I love the rain because it's a great equalizer. Now, you know, Jan and I were talking about this morning. Some of these guys that run softer setups normally are going to be better in the wet. It's better to have a soft car. Makes the car roll, gives you more grip in the wet. So I think that's going to be fun to watch to see who gets up there. But for some of these drivers have been brought up racing in the rain, and that's going to make a huge difference.
And you're going to need to have been brought up racing in the rain with the kind of spray, as you already mentioned, it'll be coming down to take this green flag. If you're anywhere off the first few rows, it is going to be nearly impossible to see where you're going. This is where we've talked a lot about contact. We've talked a lot about respecting drivers. This is a case where you got to say, you know what? This is really going to be dangerous at the back. I've got to mind my P's and Q's.
But I predict there will be contact.
We had a big conflagration at the start of last year's race. It's wet. Will we see the same here this year? The Itaipava São Paulo Indy 300 is underway. Here we go from Brazil. Down into turn number one. There's a transition that Jan talked about, and Ryan Hunter-Reay has missed the corner.
Oh, and
he's into the tires.
And here's the thing.
Here comes Serbia.
You've got to be really careful. That's all painted right there. Oh, we got guys.
Another
Castro Neves, Danica, and Simona.
Wow. While we were watching Ryan Hunter-Reay slide into that area when he missed the corner, we missed what happened back here with these three. There's Simona Di Silvestro's car on top of Danica's, and Helio Castroneves once again involved in an early incident.
You know, I said at the top of the show, you've got to get through a race to get your confidence back. This is not what Helio was looking for right here.
Here's the start of the race.
Now you can hear brakes were locking up at the rear and the front.
And what I was saying about Hunter Ray right now, you're on paint. When you're on paint in the wet, it's even slipperier than asphalt.
Now watch over to the right. We'll see what happens.
Castroneves. Wow, he was close. He was close to Franchitti. Let's see if there was contact between Franchitti and Castroneves. I don't know if there was. Looks he just got wide. Whether he had help, it's tough to tell.
Well, there's.
And they stack up behind.
Simona's car going on top of Danica's. So once again, an early crash has eliminated at least 3 drivers, probably 4 here. Ryan Hunter-Reay into the tire barrier, but maybe they can get him refired and put a new nose on the car. Never a dull moment, huh?
Well, that 3 car, Helio's car certainly looked like it hooked to the left really, really hard. It's just kind of a weird, it was kind of a weird look to just lose it, but
he was trying to go to the left of Franchitti. This is Kanaan.
Kevin, what's going on with Kanaan?
Well, he's climbed out. They have attached a front nose, but it does not look like they're going to try to repair it. And he's been holding his left wrist in hand. He immediately took the left glove off, and he's talking to Mark Johnson now. If he's injured, it does not appear to be serious. The main issue may be damage to the car. Oh, yeah, the front left suspension is all bent up. So, unfortunately, it looks like Tony Kanaan's day in his hometown is done before it barely starts.
yeah, you can see that on the left front, the wishbones, lots of damage there.
All right, let's have some more replays here. This is from Vitor Meira.
Simona Di Silvestro going up the inside. Ooh. Well, they were 2 by 2, and unfortunately the track got blocked ahead of her by Castroneves.
So the guy who has had a bad season overall with only 1 top 10 finish this year, Helio Castroneves, is involved in a wreck at the first corner here at Sao Paulo. Back with more in a moment.
Sao Paulo Indy 300 on Versus is brought to you by Izod, the official apparel of the Izod IndyCar Series, available at Macy's.
Under caution here at the Sao Paulo Indy 300 because of an incident involved on the very first lap. Helio Castroneves, Danica Patrick, Simona Di Silvestro, and Tony Kanaan involved in that accident you see right there. Ryan Hunter-Reay slid off course, but he was able to get back in the race. And here's another replay, and it's still impossible to tell.
TK just took a shot to the left front. I think that's why his hand was hurt. He was trying to turn on the other side of Danica, and he clobbered her.
All right, let's talk to TK. Here is Kevin Lee.
And right now he's huddling with Michael Cannon and Mark Johnson with the team. Helio Castroneves just walked by a little bit. The 2 longtime friends embraced. What happened?
I wish I would know. I mean, I got hit from everywhere. And all of a sudden, I think Danica hit someone. I mean, I don't want to name it because we couldn't see anything. So, but I'm pretty sure I got hit from behind. I got hit from the side. And then her car all of a sudden came on top of mine, and then it hit my hand pretty hard. So right now, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to go see the best doctors we have in medical center. Here's the guys from IndyCar, so hopefully it's nothing serious, so I can be ready to go for Indy.
They're going back and they're trying to fix the car. If they get it fixed, are you well enough to drive anymore in this race?
I drove with a broken hand, so yes, I am. I have you know, a huge fan base here that is cheering for me. I have a sponsor that bought a car for this race, and if I can, definitely I'll be out there and trying to stay out of people's way for sure, because I'm not going to be in contention for anything. But at the end of the day, we're professionals. We need to show the sponsors, and we are going to go back out, yes.
Right. Thank you, Tony Kanaan. And by the way, as you watch him make his way through the paddock this weekend, he is like a rock star here. People screaming, people following him around. He has a huge following here in his hometown of Sao Paulo.
So the race continues under caution with both Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan out of the race, and so is Danica Patrick. There is her car being lifted onto the flatbed. Helio's car remains on the racetrack.
You know what's amazing, boys, is that look at the Brazilian crowd, and they lose the two favorite guys are gone.
Yep.
Don't even see one left, and I think, you know, Kanaan's going to go back out, but still, when you see something like that happen, they're so passionate waving their flags and everything, and they're like, you wonder how many will stick around. You hope they do, but you don't know.
I think we talked about this last year, Robin, when it rained so hard. These fans didn't move an inch through a driving rain. They stayed right there, and they did it again this year.
Yeah.
Once again, some replays of what might have occurred that knocked 4 cars out of the, or at least 3 cars out of the race.
And we know already that Ryan Hunter-Reay, left of the screen, is going to go straight down the escape road. So then let's take our attention back over. Let's pause it here if we can. And it's worth, certainly, I think, taking a really close look at where we are back in here. Okay, because that's Dario Franchitti, and then on the far side, that is Castroneves. So go ahead and let that roll. Now, why, first of all, is Castroneves hanging out there on the outside?
Still hard to, really hard to see if he really went to the left quick there. The only thing I can say, if there was contact, it was off of Franchitti's left rear, and it hit Elia's right front. But Kevin, maybe you can straighten it out for us, because you're with the man.
Well, I know you really wanted a good result and a bounce back here at home. What happened?
Man, I tell you one thing. I thought bad things coming 3, but in my case, one more, 4th. So very upset because I gave plenty enough room. Just want to drive, go around the corner. Dario, whatever happens, he went deep. So.
Wow. Unfortunately,
in the throttle, his rear went sideways, and when it's sideways, it hit my right front, sent me straight to the wall. And I mean, there was not even, I mean, it was just a violent crash. And I probably helped him out, because I don't know if he would be sideways, but probably straight him out. So not even know if he bent the left rear suspension, but very sad. All our associates, you know, hopefully Indy, we definitely gotta have our luck back, because it's just frustrating.
that is Helio Castroneves, and on the replay we also saw that Danica Patrick came through the corner side by side on the outside of, I believe, Sebastian Saavedra, and that is the reason she ran into the back of Helio, and then Simona Di Silvestro also involved.
You know, sometimes, Wally, when you're under, and you talked about this on the open, Castroneves is under such a microscope, not just from fans and the media and officials, but for himself. I mean, he's trying to break out of this stranglehold he's been in. And sometimes when you're tentative, you don't make wise choices.
That's right.
That's when you make mistakes a lot of times, is when you're trying to be cautious.
But the thing about it is, even though I don't think that was Helio's fault whatsoever, because Franchitti got loose and he got into the right front, but it doesn't matter. When you've been in 3 situations already, anything that you're involved in, people are like, oh, there goes Helio again, taking a bunch of cars out. And listen, you know, like I said, Helio is a world-class driver, and absolutely, as a driver, there's nobody that puts more pressure on a driver than a driver himself. You are the hardest critic on you. And like I said, this is very difficult for him, because he's never gone through anything like this in his career.
We remain under caution here at Brazil. 2 of Brazil's favorite drivers, Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, involved in an early incident in Sao Paulo. Eyes on IndyCar Series on Versus today from the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Next up, the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and we have extensive coverage of what goes on before the race happens. Saturday, May the 21st, it's pole day, and we will have coverage beginning at 11 o'clock Eastern time. That will be until 2:30, and then we'll pick back up from 4:30 until 6:30. On Sunday, bump day will be on from noon until 6:30. And on Friday, that's carb day, we will also have the coverage of the Firestone Indy Lights Freedom 100 and the pit stop competition. The 500 Festival Parade is Saturday, May 28th, and you can see it here on Versus beginning at 5 o'clock. Well, we hear that we're going to get the green flag in one more lap, but don't forget we have another two-abreast restart coming up. Let's hope it goes a little smoother than the first time. This is the 14th consecutive race, by the way, that Will Power has led on a street or road course. The streak started with his win at Edmonton in July of 2009.
Wally, you're 1 for 1. You predicted contact. So how about on this restart?
I believe there will be more contact and even more after that.
You know, really, Ryan Hunter-Reay was benefited by the crash because he was able to come back in to get a new nose and didn't lose a lap. So, yes, he starts at the 22nd position, but he's still on the lead lap.
Yeah, I want to go back to something. You know, I'm a huge fan of these double file restarts, but maybe they should take an exception when it's wet. It's hard enough starting these races, you know, when it's dry, but when you're doing it in the wet.
Now he'll be pitting. You can continue with your thought, Wally, but people who are near the back will go ahead and take just a splash of fuel here to be sure you have that little extra to play some fuel strategy later on.
Turn it off.
No, it's just it's still running.
Oh, okay.
And it's a quick stop. And
again, the idea behind this is that you're already at the back. You're not losing track position, so you're just topping up. So if you need to go on a long stint, you've got some extra fuel. You're not really giving up much.
And don't forget, this is time. So that can definitely play into your favor.
Yep.
You know something else? Graham Rahal is third now. He was a benefit in that first little schmozzle in the first lap. But in 2007, when he was a rookie in Champ Car, he was leading the race at Montrablanc in a downpour, and he was pulling away from Justin Wilson and Bourdais, who had Formula One experience. So this might be his bailiwick.
I haven't heard the word schmozzle since Laverne and Shirley.
Or bailiwick.
Well, you know, Bob, I'm a grad student, so I picked those things up in the 9 years I spent in high school.
Okay, I got you. Well, they line up 2 by 2. Power on the left, or right rather, and Scott Dixon beside him. Then it's Rahal, Briscoe, Franchitti, Conway, Wilson, Sato, Hinchcliffe, and Bourdais, the top 10. Here they come, 2 by 2 through turn number 11, what they call the victory hairpin. Nice formation as they come down. Will they get the green? Yes, they do. Here we go, and keep your fingers crossed.
So far, it looks good. Yeah, everybody's being a lot more careful this time.
Oops,
oh, no,
Dixon.
you're kidding me.
Dixon is around. Oh, and another.
Bourdais.
Hinchcliffe.
Wow. And a couple of other cars at the top of your screen. Justin Wilson and James Hinchcliffe. And there is also James. Boy, it is just incredible. Even with the rain tires, it's just really, really slippery out there.
Still stay green.
Yeah, no full course caution. Trying to get Justin Wilson's car refired. Here once again is a look at it. Watch the second place car. He just simply loses it. Yeah,
just putting the power down.
Yep.
There's just contact in the back there. Yeah, Wilson got turned around.
Bourdais.
All on his own. Just too much power too soon. That moves Rahal up.
He didn't touch anything, though. He didn't make contact with the wall.
Ooh, this is good from Will Powers. Onboard camera.
Listen. Just when you're hitting the throttle there.
So Graham Rahal started 5th, but he is now 2nd. And we're seeing a lot of spray, but can't really find an image there.
So they have stayed green.
Yep.
They've managed to move the cars out of the first set of S's. Now Graham Rahal has just gone straight.
So the second place car spins, and that's going to move Ryan Briscoe up to 2nd place in the yellow car. The pictures you're seeing are from our host broadcasters in Brazil. We don't have much control over what we're seeing. There is Ryan Briscoe now in 2nd position. Right behind him is Mike Conway, the new star of the Eyes on IndyCar Series by virtue of his win 2 weeks ago at Long Beach. There's Brian Hunter-Ray, and he has a rear wing missing. It's not missing. There it is, but it's not doing him any good. It's supposed to be, yeah.
That's the thing with these cars, especially in these conditions. You have just got to, when you're working the gas pedal, you almost have to treat it like there's an egg underneath the pedal. You've got to just lay the throttle down very slow, keep gradually feeding it. Where Dixon probably gave it a little bit too much. Here we're on board with Hunter-Ray. And that, I mean, just a little bit. He got on the throttle a little bit. It just doesn't take much. I mean, very, very difficult conditions to be driving it.
James Jake slid through there. No contact. Same with Dixon. Going by, making up time after his very similar. Putting the power down, stepping around. Of course, unfortunately for Ryan Hunter-Ray, he received damage. And as you said, Scott Dixon apparently didn't hit anything with his pirouette. Wow, look at the rain now.
Yeah, it's really coming down. Full course caution coming.
Yeah, when it rains this hard and you have standing water like you start seeing, it gets really, really bad. You know, obviously a good call right now because it's just, this is what you call torrential.
Yeah.
The driver who has benefited most here in the early laps, gained the most positions, is J.R. Hildebrand, who...
Well, there he is. Not any longer, Bob.
Yeah, and
Vitor Mira, upper right.
Matos over there to the left of J.R. He had moved up from 22nd to 10th.
Hey, that turn two's giving people a lot of problems right there. And it's just when you're squeezing the gas on.
Sebastian Bourdais. Now, this would be the 2nd time because he had that on the restart. Now, this is more recent. Here's Vitor Mira on the brakes. Whoa, just misses Marco. A replay for Bourdais. Now, there are 2 other cars that were involved in this Mira incident. We'll see how they ended up down there. Oh, look at that. Huh. Wow, what a great shot. When you lock the rear brakes.
It's over.
It's over, baby. And there's 2 other cars that end up down this escape road.
So Mira, who had such a great run here last year, finishing in 3rd position. His badly damaged race car is in the way. There is Alex Tagliani.
Basically like driving on ice and not using your defroster. I mean, for somebody at home to figure, you know, trying to find out what it's like.
Or the wipers.
Or no wipers. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly. You cannot see, and everything is sliding around no matter what you do. You have to do everything in slow motion.
The race has been stopped. Red flag. Just too much rain, conditions too bad to continue this fiasco. That's Paul Blevin holding the red flag, and you can see he's getting pounded by the raindrops. Track crews busy in a lot of areas of the racetrack getting wrecked vehicles out of the way. So on the 10th lap of this, what was supposed to have been a 75-lap race, but turned into a timed race when it began under wet conditions, we have a red flag.
And when there is a red, the clock does stop. It does not continue to run during the red. So that's the reason they would go red, is to stop the clock and obviously figure out what to do with standing water.
Well, Ryan Hunter-Reay, among the many drivers who had problems here in the early going. He's been involved in a couple of incidents in the early part of the Sao Paulo Indy 300. The Itaipava São Paulo Indy 300 has been stopped because of a torrential downpour. The race began under wet conditions with a little bit of rain, and we've had several accidents that basically were caused when the rain became harder, and it is just downpouring now to the point where it is unsafe for the drivers, and so they have been moved into the pit area. They're still trying to get wrecked cars off the racetrack, it would appear. Well, Kevin, I don't have to ask you how the weather is down there. I think we already know.
It's not good, Bob. This is about the same level of rain that we had last year, but it didn't rain for that long during the race. But this is the second basic monsoon that we've had so far today. It started sprinkling about an hour before the race, rained hard right before the race, stopped. Now it's been raining again hard for the last 10 minutes or so, and it really couldn't be raining any harder. So even if it does ever stop, this is going to be wet the entire time. We're going to have huge puddling. They do believe that some of the changes they made in the track is going to help the drainage this year, but it's going to simply be a major issue for the rest of this race. Luckily for Will Power, he said, I like racing in the rain, even though I am starting in the point. He seemed to kind of welcome changing things up a little bit.
The race last year was stopped on the 37th lap for rain. There you see the work being done on Tony Kanaan's car, and Tony is back there watching things happen. And he's being told that the race is red flagged, and so they can't work on the car.
Correct.
Go ahead, Kevin.
We'll probably let you resume here in a minute.
Bob, they can put a cover on the car. They can also hook up the battery, but teams are told they cannot do any work on the car right now.
Okay, thank you. Rules are being explained to the crew members as they cease their work on the car that TK damaged in the first lap.
And on that shot, it's pretty apparent that this area right here is one of the many areas that they're going to need to bring attention for Tony Kanaan. Still a fair bit of work to be done.
All right, let's go back to the original restart.
The original start of the race. I want to again stop it and look at the Castro Neves situation. Let's stop it here and draw your attention to the two of these guys here. Now, Castro Neves stays to driver's left of Dario Franchitti. Let's let it play. And he talked about how when Franchitti got on the power, that pushed him into the wall. Now, the interesting thing as we see others taking avoiding action, if we go to the restart, it was a similar situation. Again, that caused a chain reaction. So, again, restart. Let's let them roll into where they're getting ready. Now, I want to keep an eye on Franchitti. So let's stop it here. And now this time, let's watch this. So here we have an identical situation to what Castro Neves was involved in. So what does Franchitti do? Does he stay there or does he get clear? And that was my question about why Castro Neves didn't get out of there. See, he drops back. He gets off of the power. And, of course, part of it is because his teammate is spinning pirouettes ahead of him. And then, of course, all pandemonium breaks loose behind. But the point is that if you are in that situation and it is that slick, that Dario Franchitti, I think it's obvious now, made the wiser choice of, hey, I'm on the outside. I don't want to be here. Backed off and let Mike Conway go.
I just don't know if Helio had the room to, I don't know if Elio had the room to do that on the start because they were stacked up on that restart. Those guys got single file pretty fast, you know, the first 4 or 5 guys. But Elio was kind of pretty far up on Franchitti. I really don't know if he had the option. I guess he could have just backed off, but if he would have backed off, you're always worried about, if I back off, I'm going to lose 3 or 4 positions. But, you know, you won't be in the wall as well. So that's really a tough call on.
The rain is coming down in buckets. It's awfully hard to tell a race driver to back off.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm not sure that anybody's ever done.
Yeah, I mean, Elio was, like I said, he was pretty far up on Dario, and you know, I think he committed himself there. I believe Elio would have made it through the corner if Franchitti didn't bust loose and hit his right front and knock him into the wall. He didn't make a mistake. He stayed there, but Franchitti's the one who knocked him into the wall.
Well, you can see that the stands are pretty much empty now, at least in areas that are not covered. All the crowd has moved back under cover and watching the incredible rain continue. Yesterday was a beautiful day here in Sao Paulo, but not so today, as the Sao Paulo Indy 300 has been red flagged. For the second year in a row, heavy rain falls on the Sao Paulo Indy 300 IZOD IndyCar Series race. 10 laps have been completed, and we are under a red flag. The conditions are just too bad for the race to continue. As you can see, there is heavy rain falling, and there's a lot of ponding on the racetrack itself, and so it's just not safe for the drivers. Many cars have slid off the track so far in this race, eliminating several of the top contenders, including Elio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, 2 of Brazil's favorite race drivers. So we will do a little fill, as they say here in the business, and talk about how it's too bad that this race, which, as we know, is very, very popular in Brazil among the Brazilian fans, has had this rain 2 years in a row and put a damper on things.
It's a great course. I mean, and we saw some great action yesterday in qualifying. And, you know, a little bit of water is fun to watch. And I think the racers like a little bit of rain. But in these conditions, there's nothing you can do. When you can't see and you have absolutely no grip, it's just carnage. So it's the right thing right now. And hopefully the rain will stop and we can get this thing going again.
Yeah, and the technical side of that, the 2 issues that they have to deal with, of course, are the aquaplaning. And that is that when you have so much water that even the grooves and those Firestone Firehawks are just not going to dissipate the water. You ride up on top of it and you've got no hope of changing the direction of the car. And then, like you said, visibility. You know, visibility has certainly been a huge issue from the start, restart, and now it's crazy.
What year was it that Indianapolis ended in such a downpour?
75.
Yeah, 75.
And people are sliding backwards through the short chute. Vukovic almost gets up in the infield and hits almost hits a cameraman. And of course, those were on slicks. But you know, we get letters. People say, "Well, they got rain tires. Why don't they run?" And you just explained it. There's a reason they can't run in this.
There apparently will be a second race in Brazil next year in September of 2012, giving race fans in another city an opportunity to see the drivers and the stars of the IZOD IndyCar Series. That has not been officially announced yet, but word is that it probably will happen.
So you pretty much just left the cat out of the bag on that one. Thank you. Hear it here first.
Word is.
Well, he phrased it right. If the check clears, because I think Cart still owed a bunch of money from the 90s and the late that decade just because they didn't get paid. But, you know, Wally said, we thought we heard some gunshots ring out. I think they just told the Brazilian fans it's a timed race. I don't think that went over well.
It does look like this track is draining. I think, Jan, you were mentioning earlier that they did some work there. That's the biggest thing after a rain like this. It's hard to get those puddles, that standing water off. But so far, a lot of this looks good. They may be able to get back to it pretty quick.
And this isn't really atypical. I remember last year when they were trying to get this event together, Tony Kottman told me when they're trying to do the setup, they had 50 straight days of rain trying to get this together, which was why it was somewhat last year done, I wouldn't say haphazardly, but they didn't get the kind of paving done they wanted to. Now this year, they had time, got it done ahead of time with the asphalt that they were looking for. So if it stops raining, it'll drain. We should be good to go. Yeah,
let's hope it ends very soon. In the meantime,
Robin Miller is going to sing a song for us all.
You know, I was just looking at the monitor. You guys are all got ties on. I didn't get sent a tie. Versus didn't send me a tie.
Would you wear one?
Oh.
There is something that happens during the month of May in Indianapolis that we will talk about when we return. The centennial celebration of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the running of the 500. More on that when we return. Versus welcomes you to Breakfast in Brazil, the restart of what we began yesterday, the fourth race of the 2011 INDY IndyCar season, the Itaipava São Paulo Indy 300. The good news, it's not raining. The bad news is there's a 70% chance of rain. Temperature is in the 60s right now, high humidity, but again, no rain. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Wally Dallenbach, Jan Beekes, and Robin Miller with Kevin Lee down on pit lane. Well, yesterday, before the heavy rain began and postponed this race to today, there were a few laps run, and Jan Beekes has the highlights.
Of course, Bob, the race was started in very wet conditions, and right from the get-go, Ryan Hunter-Reay cannot get it stopped in turn number 1, gets on the paint. If you take the view from Will Power, you can certainly see that front lockup for Ryan Hunter-Reay while he was going through the tires. In the background, Helio Castroneves with heavy contact up against the wall, and then it backed up. Simona De Silvestro right into the back. Danica Patrick also involved. Tony Kanaan looking off the back goes by, looks like he was unscathed, but he clipped the car of Danica Patrick, which injured his hand and brought his car and, of course, his countryman Helio Castroneves to pit road. On the restart, Scott Dixon in second position gets on the power, it loops around. He said afterwards he thought he caught the curve. It doesn't look like it, but that was the case for Sebastian Bourdais, who does a pirouette. Off the back of Vitor Meira, you can see that both Hinchcliffe and Justin Wilson also involved in incidents on that restart. Now, on lap number 8, it really started raining. Sebastian Bourdais does a 360 coming off of turn number 2, and then front brake failure for Vitor Meira, a heavy crash for him. Thankfully, he was okay, but that car was severely damaged. On the power, Ryan Hunter-Reay, whoa, I think I have it saved. I don't. And unfortunately for him, rear wing damage, which brought him onto pit road, and they had to effect repairs. The red flag meant that no teams could work on their cars for a while, but then they could, and they tried to restart. They never actually took the green, but they ran behind the pace car, which was no big deal for everyone except for Mike Conway. These laps counted. He came to a stop with an electrical problem. He's going to start at the front and get the wave round. He stays on the lead lap.
And so here are the top 10 at the end of 14 laps. Will Power, our pole sitter, has led all the way. Charlie Kimball has gained 11 spots. Alex Tagliani 12, and Sebastian Saavedra has gained 13. Here's some drivers who had damaged cars, but repairs have been made. They're restarting, but they are laps down. Not included in that list, Vitor Meira and Simona De Silvestro. Jan, how has the strategy changed, if at all?
The reason that the strategy has changed is they allowed them overnight to fill the cars up with fuel. So the pit windows, 21 to 40, 48 to 67. I should note, when this restarts, it'll be lap 15. So therefore, only 6 laps until the pit windows open. And if you get some caution, this turns into a one-stop race.
Did I see what? Yeah.
Yes,
well,
you do.
Part of the track was dry. You get over here on this part, Kevin, looks like it's raining somewhere.
Yeah, it just started right on cue, right when the cars rolled off, started to sprinkle. Now it's a pretty steady rain again. I'm at the 6th pit where Tim Cindric has moved over to call Ryan Briscoe's race. Roger Penske headed back to the States last night because of a board meeting. Now there's something going on there. Well, they're going to change to the rain tires, obviously. They're coming in the 6th pit, and others are starting to set up as well. This will be the first time in Helio Castroneves' Team Penske career that Tim Cindric has not been on his stand. He's multiple laps down. John Boslog, who is the new team manager, he's been with Penske since 1987, is calling a race for the first time. They felt like this was a great time to get him some experience. Not very much pressure on Castroneves' race today.
And the green flag is out. The Sao Paulo Indy 300 underway. We have rain, and let's see how things go in turn number 1. Hopefully everybody is going to be very, very cautious.
And this is on slicks.
I can't believe they threw the green flag with these guys on slicks on a wet racetrack.
But you can still dive onto pit road. They have not not got to the pit entrance yet. It's not on the main straightaway, so let's see if anyone peels off. It'll be the next opportunity. There they go. They're all hitting pit road for wet tires. Woo, baby.
Exciting.
Let's take a green and go straight to the pits.
And even a spray coming off the back of the car. So this is more than just a sprinkle. It is definitely a rain.
And you see Viso just made an overtaking maneuver. You can pass until you get to that bridge. That was legal. That was pretty wise.
Down to Kevin Lee, who's in the Briscoe pit.
Ryan Briscoe is in his pit stall. Will Power, the leader, went by. He's all the way at the end. Briscoe, because he qualified 10th. I think that 12th at Long Beach is in the middle. Briscoe is out, so we'll watch and see how they come back out as everybody changes to rain tires on pit road here in Brazil.
Boy, the timing was just wrong, wasn't it? As soon as the cars were on the pace lap, getting set for the green, we had the rain start falling.
I've never seen that before. That was actually pretty cool. You know, to start them on dries, and then you have to get to your pit.
Yeah.
But that's pretty interesting. Interesting way of doing it.
Will Power has beat everybody out of the pits. That's Ryan Briscoe in the yellow car running in second position. There is the third place car, the green car of Takuma Sato from KV Racing Technology. On board with Ryan Briscoe, the IZOD onboard camera. And a little bit of rain is going to make things interesting. Let's hope it doesn't downpour and get the track really wet.
Next thing is they're spread out enough to where you can get some visibility. It's not like if you started them all side by side. You know, they're spread out. And it's not pouring down rain either.
There's Graham Rahal. Right behind him is Dario Franchitti. Everybody being very, very cautious at this point.
Hinchcliffe coming through. J.R. Hildebrand. Here's a move. Here comes Marco up the inside of Tagliani.
Now, this race will probably not go the distance. In fact, that's pretty certain. It is a timed race, and the time started with 1 hour and 19 minutes to go. So this is going to be a short race. It's going to be like the feature, Robin, at Eldora. Instead of
This is a 12-lap semi, Bobby.
Franchitti here, he's sizing up Rahal. He's trying to get to a point where he can take a look and make a pass under braking.
Let's see if he goes to the inside and makes a maneuver on Graham Rahal. Dario Franchitti in the 10 car takes the position from Rahal, and Franchitti moves up to 4th.
Graham Rahal saw him coming. You can see him looking over, making sure he gave Dario room, not just because he's the champion, but because they've learned their lessons, and that, you know, when it's this slippery, you got to give people room when they're trying to make moves. And of course, he's a satellite teammate to Graham Rahal.
Dario also the points leader going into this race, and Kevin Lee has a report on Simona.
There was contact on pit lane. I am told by Keith Wiggins, Simona Di Silvestro's car owner, that when she was coming in, Charlie Kimball was coming out. They made contact. It spun Simona around, did some damage on the side pod. No damage to the nose cone, so they did not change that, but they had to spin her back around, and she's going all the way to the back. She wasn't in position to win this race anyway, multiple laps down, but it just adds to the frustrations of the weekend for the 78 team.
Graham Rahal loses another position. That was Alex Tagliani that went to the inside of Graham in that white and black car. Tagliani now moves up to 5th position. Rahal to 6th, and right behind Rahal now, or rather, yeah, Rahal now is Marco Andretti.
And it makes you wonder when we spoke, and here comes Marco. He goes up the inside. Look out, that's tight through there. I was going to say that Graham Rahal said yesterday that he would not go with a wet setup, that he would stay with a dry setup, even if he thought there was forecast. Marco's not done.
Marco moves to the inside of Rahal. Marco in the 26th Venom-sponsored car, and he is going to pick up another position. So Graham Rahal is losing spots here as Sato has taken over 2nd place from Ryan Briscoe. Charlie Kimball is on pit lane. Takuma Sato in the Lotus-sponsored green car running in 2nd position now, on board with Briscoe, now back to 3rd.
Wow. Takuma Sato.
How about that? This is the IZOD onboard camera for Ryan Briscoe.
And you see how Sato went wide? That's a rain technique, that you stay wide and stay off of the apexes to find some additional grip.
Kevin has more on Charlie Kimball that we saw in pit lane.
Well, we mentioned the contact between her and Simona, and next time around, Kimball came back in. Not substantial damage to the wing and the nose cone, but there was damage, so they changed that out, and he's back out.
And Marco Andretti picks up another position, this time to the outside of Tagliani. We've got a lot of passing going on here on a very wet racetrack. So Marco Andretti up to 5th.
Yeah, his car looks like it's working really, really good in the rain right now. He's got a lot of grip.
There's Marco. Again in the black and red car, Tagliani behind him, then Rahal, and then E.J. Viso moving up to 8th position. That's a team car to Takuma Sato, who's currently running in 2nd spot.
Having gained Viso 18 positions from his original starting spot, we saw he got one of them coming into pit road, which was pretty clever. He did it before the pit speed limit.
And again, we remind you that he started dead last on the field because of a crash in Saturday practice. Now Graham Rahal moving to the inside of Alex Tagliani, and Rahal will get back 1 position. Rahal in the 38 car. We're seeing more passing than we do on a dry racetrack.
Well, don't forget last year's race, 93 passes in the event itself. So wet or dry, this happens just to be a great racetrack for overtaking.
You know who else got back in the picture, fellas? Look where old Scott Dixon is.
Yeah, Scott Dixon up to 9th position. There's Will Power, who has stretched out the advantage rather comfortably. You don't even see the 2nd place car. It is Takuma Sato. Oh, and look at, wow, he came very close to banging the wall hard enough to do some damage.
The banner stayed on, so he may have escaped that one.
There's the interval between 1st and 2nd position. Now, we didn't see the pass that Takuma Sato made, but here it is.
Into turn 5. And Briscoe certainly waits. Briscoe certainly, and that's, of course, where Briscoe was leading and crashed last year. And here comes Viso.
That's E.J. Viso moving up to 6th position, make it 7th position. From 26th, he moves up to 7th. Nice run for E.J. Viso in the early part of our postponed from yesterday Sao Paulo Indy 300 from the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Sao Paulo Indy 300 on Versus is brought to you by IZOD, the official apparel of the IZOD IndyCar Series, available at Macy's.
The world of IZOD.
I've been pushing food around to make it look like I ate it since before I could walk. If only Mom knew about Kraft home-style macaroni and cheese. I'd be pushing creamy, delicious, oven-baked mac and cheese into my pie hole. But hey, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Good job, kiddo. Looks like you really like my cooking.
Yeah, yummy.
Kraft Homestyle Macaroni and Cheese. Cheesy noodles topped with golden brown breadcrumbs. You know you love it.
Craig Burnett, lead chemist.
Professionals and car enthusiasts all talk about how well Mother's Clay Bar works. You may think your paint is clean, but a simple touch will tell you otherwise. If the surface is not smooth as glass, you need the Clay Bar. Just spray, clay, and wipe away. Our Clay Bar shears off and removes harmful embedded contaminants, leaving your paint perfectly smooth and clean, paving the way for final waxing. Mother's Clay Bar system. More value, more clay.
Make a wish!
Oh. Happy birthday, Todd.
It's for a cough. From allergies.
Halls relieves coughs and sore throats due to allergies, too. Now you know.
Flyers, Game 2 tonight.
You saw on Versus Nonstop the reason for our first full course caution here at Sao Paulo. Sebastian Bourdais into the tires, and we also saw Ryan Hunter-Reay spin in just about the same location of the racetrack that he spun yesterday and damaged the car.
I wonder why Bourdais out of the car. He's got no damage to it. He must have some kind of a other problem with the car, because normally you just fire it back up and go.
So he does have some damage.
Yes, he does. He does have some rear wing damage.
That's only a few hundred yards down from where he hit in the very same fashion yesterday. Same kind of damage.
Yep.
Man.
All right, with the caution out, we go down to Kevin Lee on pit lane for a report. Kevin?
Thank you, Bob. Jimmy Vasser calls the race for Takuma Sato. You're happy about the rain. I know he said he wanted it to rain today.
Yeah, he did, and he's showing that he's pretty darn good at it. So, you know, it's still early, and these conditions are going to be changing off and on. It's going to be a very, very difficult race. So, you know, he's doing a great job, and
he's got to go back to work here.
Thank you. Yeah, he's doing good. We'll see how it comes out.
All right, Jimmy Vasser sitting in second place with Takuma Sato with the Lotus team.
So, two of the KV cars, namely Takuma Sato and EJ Viso, running in the top 7 here. Sato is second and Viso is in 7th position. Full course caution, the field packing up behind the pace car. That's Ryan Briscoe in the yellow car running in 3rd position. Dario Franchitti behind him. Then Marco Andretti, Rahal, Viso, Dixon, Servia, and Wilson are in the top 10.
Now, during the break, Robin was asking me, what about onboard starters? What can you do for the future when guys have spins and now can't get restarted? They're not going to go with an onboard starter with the new car, but myself and a lot of people have talked to Tony Kottman about no stall technology. They use it in other series, and that is it has a wheel speed sensor. As soon as it looks like it's going to stall, it electronically releases the clutch and keeps it running. So you don't have to necessarily have a starter, but you can keep the car running in those kind of spins, and the guy can rejoin.
EJ Viso has gained 19 spots since the start of the race yesterday. Kevin Lee has a report on EJ.
And EJ felt good about his car coming into the weekend after the practice sessions. Felt like it had a good balance, felt like it was quick, but the brake line broke in the second practice session, and he had no opportunity to save the car and ran past the turn 11 hairpin with a great deal of force. They totaled that car. They had to go to the backup and didn't have time to qualify, so he started from the back. EJ obviously feels awful about the types of issues that they've had this season with damaged race cars. Last night, walking through the garage at around 10 o'clock, he was spotted helping the team polish wheels, get the car ready, out there showing support for his guys, and so far it's paying off today.
And Kevin, if you have another opportunity to talk to Jimmy Vasser or someone on KV, I'd love to know if they decided overnight to go with a wet setup, because we see how racy Takuma is. We've seen, as you just documented, how EJ Viso is flying through the field, and that would be something that the teams may have gambled with. I'd love to know if that's the direction they went.
And Wally, you talked yesterday about what a wet setup is.
That is the direction they went.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
Good.
All right.
Right. And Bob, that is the direction they went. They were planning on a wet, so they went for the wet setup. Talking to some other teams, a lot of them kind of went 50-50 because we didn't really know what the forecast was. It was 40 to 50% chance of rain, so they kind of split it down in the middle with their downforce levels. By the way, I can report now it has stopped raining, but regardless, it's going to be wet this entire race. Ryan Hunter-Reay, by the way, is coming in here in just a moment.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's
riding on board.
A wing to fix in the back. Yeah, what they've done is they've softened the cars up, put a ton of downforce in it, probably changed their camber and toe. All these things to give the car more, probably unhook the bars, the sway bars. And what you do is you soften the car up. That gives you more bite, more grip in the rain, and that's what you're trying to do. Now, if it does dry out, you're toast. That's, the downside, but it's worth the gamble. I mean, the way the weather's been there for, yesterday and today, hey, why not go for it?
Ryan Hunter-Reay has had an interesting couple of days. He spun recently and damaged the rear of the car and had to make a pit stop. We'll be back with more of our coverage of the Sao Paulo Indy 300 on Versus. On on the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil today for the rescheduled Sao Paulo Indy 300. Less than 3 weeks away from pole day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Saturday, May 21st will be on from 11 to 2:30 and then again from 4:30 to 6:30. Sunday, bump day, May 22nd, noon at until 6:30, and then Friday, carb day, 11 to 4, with coverage including the Firestone Indy Lights Freedom 100. And don't forget our weekly show, IndyCar Open Wheel Weekly, premieres tomorrow, Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.
And I will now say, with this rain and with this yellow, they have fulfilled the obligation, so to speak, to make it a one-stop race.
Yep.
So the windows have widened, and so don't expect anyone on pit road for a while. They're going to wait and wait until they know for sure they can make it to the end.
Just about 1 hour remaining in this race, and the lights atop the pace car are out. It will be exiting the racetrack and will be going back to green.
Now, I should say the leaders. There'll be a few people that are at the back of the group right now.
Yep.
Go ahead, get on pit road, and in case there's heaps and heaps of yellow and rain, take some fuel just in case.
In fact, we saw Danica Patrick while we were in break make a pit stop. She is running back in the 26th position because of that pit stop.
And they took fuel, but they also added wings. So that was exactly what Wally was just talking about. They took the opportunity as long as they went on the pit road, adding wing, of course, adding downforce, adding grip in these kind of slippery conditions. Wally just talking about, you want a car that's compliant, you want a car that rolls, that you have a feel for it, and lots of downforce. And I'll have to say, Graham Rahal was pretty adamant yesterday that he probably would not go with a wet setup, and I think that's hurting him now. He just comes through the screen in a Service Central car, and he's been eaten up by people on wet setups.
This is Ryan Hunter-Ray, but he has a Conway wing on the back of it. His Andretti Autosport teammate. Down to Kevin Lee once again from a report.
Well, one theory is that because of the wet conditions and the uncertainty, Graham Rahal, for example, is told to save fuel, and there is a chance they might be able to do this without a stop.
Well, I suppose if it continues behind the pace car and it's a timed race, the race keeps shortening.
That helps everybody. Yeah. I mean, and everybody can do it, right?
Well, unless somebody's saving fuel. You never know. It all just totally dependent on how much green you get.
Look at Sato getting up there and saying, Will, I'm right here. It's going to be interesting to see if Takuma can give him a run. They do line up side by side for the restart.
You saw each of them pulling off a tearaway. We talked about that in the broadcast yesterday. You want clear vision, obviously.
At least two front guys.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're not, you're like, well, I'm not going to see much anyway. Oh, this is good. They're lined up really nicely.
This is going to be
good. This is good.
And this is what people want to see, guys, you know? I mean, I know it's tough sometimes, but this is what they want to see. That's right.
Here we go. Green flag is waving. A great formation on the restart. Here they go into turn one, and look at the visibility or lack there.
Oh, look at Sato. Here he comes.
Sato got it. How about that?
That was a nice move. He went in there pretty deep.
Everybody going to get through? Let's hope so.
Dario Franchitti got 2, possibly 4 wheels inside the curb in that first corner.
Wow, Kevin, a nice move by Takuma Sato.
And we talked a few minutes ago about how they gambled and went for the wet setup today. Their theory was, we're not going to catch the Penske's under equal conditions in a dry setup, so we're going to gamble, and it's worked out so far. It has not rained for the last 10 minutes or so, but the track is so wet, it is going to be wet throughout the entire race.
Yeah, I believe you're right on that one, Kevin. It looks like that track doesn't look like it's dried out. We see Marco has taken the spot from Briscoe.
Yep.
Hang on.
Look at Sato.
Right on Sato now.
And we have another full course caution as Sato was able to grab the lead from Will Power. Here's another look at the restart into turn one. Whoa, there it goes.
From car lengths deeper.
Nice.
Than
That was nice.
Really nice move.
Wow.
Well, you know, what has he got to lose? Good job. Wet setup. You know, we talk about cambers. That means the wheels are stood up more. You have much better braking. We just were talking about Graham Rahal.
Wow.
In the very same spot that Ryan Hunter-Ray had trouble.
He gets going again, however, although we are under a full course caution.
I think at this point, if I was Rahal, I'd be coming in doing whatever I can for rain. You know what I mean? I know you can't do everything you want to do, but if he's not on a wet setup, I'd be cranking winging that thing. I'd be doing everything I could.
Now they're picking pieces up from the racetrack. That was a black front wing. So there's been some additional contact out there.
Well, this is the first time that Takuma Sato has ever led an IZOD IndyCar Series race, and it is
Rafael Matos, whose wing pieces we saw there. On the front wing, you see Novoskine. That's a new sponsor for them, Brazilian beer.
Yep, in addition to their normal AFS, automatic fire sprinklers sponsor. Novoskine is another Brazilian beer, as is Itaipava, which is the title sponsor of this race.
Bobby, you know, Randy Bernard said that the people at Delora told him the other day, we're having trouble keeping up making front wings for these cars.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the last year for this car, and they don't have a big surplus. And I'll tell you what, they're knocking them off right and left.
So you and I are going to start making front wings for these guys?
Dallenbach Fabrications.
Here's this restart again.
Now what you want to do is keep an eye on Dario Franchitti, and he of course is here in the spray, but he gets into the second part of this chicane side by side with Briscoe. We've documented how great Sato does, but right here they're side by side, and he has to take voiding action and go to the inside of the curve. So race control will have to decide if he had to do that to avoid contact or if that somehow was an improvement. Kevin?
Just came in and they only topped off. No change of tires. Obviously, there's not a tire wear concern with the rain tires and the wet right now. I mentioned earlier that we're thinking about trying, or at least thinking about going the whole way without a stop if conditions allow that. But they were already at the back of the field running 6th. The spin put them back to 17th, so they're not going to lose track position for this, and now they're in a better situation. One other note, Mike Conway, who restarted in last as far as those on the lead lap today, he was among those that came in and topped off a little while ago. The thinking there was, well, at this point, we're only going to lose one spot on the racetrack, and now they're in position to possibly go the rest of the way.
And Mike Conway restarted this race in 20th position, the last car on the lead lap, and he has moved up to 14th.
I was just wondering what's the rule is if you're avoiding unavoidable contact for Franchitti.
Takuma Sato could become another first-time winner. The last 2 in consecutive races, Graham Rahal at St. Petersburg and Danica Patrick at Motegi. Of course, Mike Conway won the most recent event in the series 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago now, at Long Beach, California. You're watching the Indy Sao Paulo 300 from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Back in a moment. Getting set for a restart here at the Sao Paulo Indy 300. Rain postponed yesterday. Now we are in a situation where the track is wet. Rain in some parts of the racetrack, but not a heavy rain by any means. There are 51 minutes to go in our race.
Briefly, you may have seen Rafael Matos. He slotted out between the first and second place car, but he had entered a closed pit, so they have given him a drive-through. So now the positions at the front of the race are all those who are dicing for it. And we just had a little offline discussion talking about if your Will Power, and the way that Takuma Sato went down there in the first turn last time, Will Power, I think, had no idea that Sato could get in there that late and get by him.
Yeah, I think when he saw him flying by on his right side, he's like, ha, he ain't going to make this corner. And all of a sudden he made it. So, yeah, I think you're right, Jan.
1 to go to the green.
So does Will Power learn from Sato and say, now I'll be on the outside, should I try that?
Yeah, I think he's also got to worry about Marco.
Yeah.
I think Marco's going to be pretty aggressive here in the next few laps.
I just think that your mindset, if your Will Power, is much different than Takuma Sato. Takuma Sato, they've gone for a gamble. They've gone for a setup that works great, soft, in the wet. You have additional downforce. You take all the risks. You go for it. You get to the front. You just take all kinds of chances. I don't think that Will Power is really in a position to take the same kind of risk level that a Takuma Sato is, at least in these early stages.
And when the same teams win every race, like in Ganassi and Penske, you take some chances.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what they're doing. That's, you know, that's what's refreshing about this thing so far. That and the Dallara guy sitting over there with the cash register and his little checkbook going, yeah, well, let's see.
Although Power's in a situation he hasn't been in a lot. That's all of a sudden he's in traffic.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, so that's another thing you got to worry about is like, yeah, you could be a little bit cautious, but now you've got guys you're racing with in the wet. So you put yourself in that situation where instead of going out and leading that thing and being by yourself, somebody can get into you, run into you. You can, you know, get into a problem. So the best place to be in one of these races on the wet is out front.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Saw Graham Rahal make another pit stop as the cars will begin to form up in 2 abreast formation. Takuma Sato, the leader of the races from Tokyo, Japan. He's finished 22nd in this race last year.
EJ Viso, his teammate.
And there's a guy like Elio, needs to put a complete deal together. He's had a really rough year. If he can just come home with a good finish, that's going to do a lot for his confidence going into, you know, going to the Speedway.
Here's the Firestone onboard camera for Tony Kanaan looking back on the rest of the field. That's Alex Tagliani beside him.
They said Viso was polishing wheels last night. He should have been buying dinner, polishing wheels, driving people to the hotel.
Here we go. They are about to enter turn number 11. The victory hairpin.
That last restart was awesome. Again, they're bringing it up. Unlike Long Beach, where they kind of took things in their own hands, this is nice.
I was looking at Marco. Marco was waving a power to get up there. He was just pointing, get up there. I think you're going to see Marco right on the tail of Sato.
Okay, green flag again. Watch him into turn 1. Marco and Franchitti still side by side back there for 3rd.
Just like
oh, we got a spin. And that's Tony Kanaan, along with Rafael Matos and
all Brazilians.
Yep.
Anna Beatriz.
Anna Beatriz is
3
together.
Brazilians going across the paint.
No full course caution.
Viso, he got by Briscoe, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Viso up to 5th.
He cut that corner, Jan, the same thing, just like Franchitti did.
He cut the corner, but did he gain position? I'm wondering if he passed him after he cut the corner. We'll have to see if they try and take that one away from Viso.
Right. Marco's putting a lot of heat on Power right now.
Oriol Servia in the blue Telemundo colors. Kevin?
It'll be interesting to see. I would love to see a replay again of that EJ Viso turn through turn number 2. If you get all 4 wheels off the track, past the curbs, not only are you not allowed to pick up a position, you're not allowed to defend a position. You would have to give up that 1 position back. I can't swear that he had all 4 off, though. It was close.
Yes, Kevin. Oh, Justin Wilson's backwards.
Keeps it running, though.
And he'll spin it around and get going again. Wilson has had a tough day yesterday and today.
Now, to talk about the point that Kevin was just making about EJ Viso, let's take a look. Remember, we've already seen Dario Franchitti do this. So, of course, here is Viso's position. We'll let it roll. This is a very, very similar situation to what we had already seen side by side with Briscoe.
No, he went over the curve.
That looks like 2 wheels to me.
Yeah.
So that's legal.
Yeah.
And now Servia has moved to 5th in that blue car.
Wow.
Sponsored by Telemundo, and he is in front of EJ Viso. So
for now, here comes Viso.
He's 6th. Oh, here he comes to the inside.
I say uh-oh, because what is Servia doing over on that side of the racetrack? You're going to get in trouble if you try that.
You got to leave the inside lane available if you are under attack, and he is.
You know, they gave each other room. That was good. That was respectful. Servia's looking in the mirror saying, no, don't do it, don't do it.
On board with Ryan Briscoe and the eyes on onboard camera. Briscoe running in 7th position. Up ahead of him,
Oh, look out. Ooh, that was the same place that Hunter Ray got backwards twice this weekend.
That's a convention center that you saw on the left side.
Scott Dixon, target colors right behind him. He's been racy.
He's running 8th. Followed by J.R. Hildebrand, the top rookie at this point. Hildebrand running in 9th, and Tagliani is 10th. And look, the visibility is just almost 0.
And the backstretch seems to be the worst place on the track for holding water.
Down to Kevin Lee in the pit area.
E.J. Viso was ruled to have cut the corner, so he was told to give up that spot to Oriol Servia.
Okay.
Boy, sure looked to us like he had 2 wheels on the curb.
Yeah, you can see the curb was right in the middle of the car when he went through that corner.
Hildebrand under attack in that National Guard car from Elio Castroneves, who is not on the lead lap. In fact, Castroneves is shown as 9 laps down. He, of course, involved in the early incident yesterday. The National Guard onboard camera here as we go down the straightaway with Hildebrand.
You can see even going through the gears how these cars break loose. The rear traction when you're on the throttle, you have to be so smooth and so careful right now. Everything has to be delayed, slow motion.
And you've talked many times about how rain is the great equalizer. Hildebrand now picking up 13 position from where he started.
Justin Wilson and Danica Patrick at the back of the field. Justin Wilson is now still on the lead lap despite the spin. He's in 17th.
You know, Wally and I were praying for rain yesterday, but we didn't want a downpour. This is the kind of race you want right here because this thing's turned out to be pretty darn cool already.
Yeah, this is it, and it's fun. I mean, most drivers love the rain. I used to love the rain. Like I said, if you could see, it's fun. But it's a different type of racing because when you're in the dry, you know, you're driving and you're driving hard. But when you're in the wet, you're going half the speed and it's twice intense because your senses are, every little break of that car, you've got to be careful.
Oh, and Rankini blows the, oh, he's not going to make it.
Into the tires. Wow.
Something you never see.
Rankini running at 4th spot.
Championship point leader in the tires.
Yes. The great equalizer.
And
the water.
Exactly. And there's a guy that never makes mistakes, and that's why he wins championships.
They've stayed green for now, but they're going to have to go. Well, I don't think you'd want to leave a car there on a local yellow.
Yeah.
Not at the end of a straightaway like that into turn 1.
No, because we've had a few guys use that same exact spot during the last day and a half.
But they can wait. Obviously, they can wait till the leaders come around to that portion before they make. Oh, he's still got it running. Because he's out of the tires now, obviously.
Or he had it running for a while.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
All right, so he's got a shot.
Alex Tagliani makes a pit stop. We see Rafa Matos' car there on pit lane, and he is now listed as out of the race. Here's a replay of what happened to 4th place running Dario Franchitti. Just didn't even come close to making the corner.
And paint, as we have had so many examples of, you get on that paint, there's just no grip. But he manages to keep the engine running and doesn't appear as though he has. Oh, and now Tagliani, who just pitted, is in trouble.
It's Danica Patrick going by him. Danica, of course, was involved in the initial incident yesterday at the start of the race. She's back in.
Oh, he just stalled it.
Yeah.
And we may have a full course caution because of this. Meanwhile, they're replacing the nose on Dario's car, and Marco blew the corner.
Oh, wow. And a side-by-side, that's Viso getting by Briscoe.
So Viso picks up a position, moves up to 5th.
They haven't gone yellow yet. These are all still legal.
Yep.
Now it's yellow.
He has his visor, yes. Now we've gone full course caution.
He just broke loose getting into the corner.
And the only way, as you know, Wally, to get it back, when you have that, you have to let off the brakes. And when you do that, it speeds up. And then at this point, he's got nothing going on. Danica, same kind of trouble we just saw for Tagliani. Same spot that Ryan Hunter-Reay, her teammate, got into trouble. That's just really slick coming off that corner. Oh, okay, so Briscoe's trying to get by Viso, and they just duke it all the way through the corner, side by side. Now, see, this time he stays definitely on. There's no question he didn't cut the curb there.
Contact there, it looked like, between Viso and Briscoe. And Alex Tagliani's car is not what I would call in a good position. Full course caution is out once again with just about 39 minutes to go in this race. Clock at the top of your screen is counting down to the checkered flag. This is a timed race and will not go the distance, which originally was scheduled for 75 laps or 190 miles on the 2.5-mile 11-turn street circuit. So it's Sato, Power, Andretti, Servia, and Viso in the top 5.
And the more pace car running you have, the bigger the chance of having a no pit stop race. I don't think they're there yet, but they're closing in on it.
So many natural disasters have occurred in the last few months. Of course, we still are thinking about the victims of the tornado and the bad weather down in Alabama and surrounding states, but we also think about the earthquake in Japan. And Takuma Sato, of course, is from Japan, and he has told us on numerous occasions that his family is okay, but his heart is in that country. So Takuma Sato is leading here at the Sao Paulo Indy 300 on Versus.
Welcome back to Brazil. Takuma Sato is our leader in Sao Paulo. One of the Brazilians, Rafa Matos, unfortunately is out. What ultimately ended your day?
Yeah, very frustrating. You know, I was fighting very hard to finish this race, trying to take my time, but I got hit from behind on the last restart. And I was sent directly into Tony's car, and I was actually very lucky not to get hurt, because as you can see, his tire marks are almost at my headrest. So you know, it's very frustrating, but that's how racing is sometimes. You know, we just try to regroup ourselves for Indy and try to do a better job in the next race.
What were the conditions like today?
Very, very difficult on the restarts. You know, I was just couldn't see a thing ahead of you, and very tough, very tough.
All right, thank you, Rafa. We'll see you at Indy. Bob?
Rafael Matos out of today's race. In fact, he and Ana Beatriz out of the race, and so is Sebastian Bourdais. So 3 cars are officially listed as out of the race, and yes, pit stops are occurring here.
Teams have made the determination with the amount of time left that they want to come onto pit road. Too much of a gamble to try and make it a no-stopper. So all the top dogs seem to be hitting pit road.
Sunoco fuel stop for Will Power as he comes in. He has the first advantageous pit stall. We'll keep an eye on Takuma Sato too. It comes down to the pit guys, and it looks like Will Power is going to get out of there first, and Ryan Briscoe right beside him. And then we see Oriol Servia coming out third.
Boy, Sato, did he stop?
I don't think Sato or Marco came in. Not sure.
Well, if he did, he has lost. No, he's still out there. Yeah, you're right. Sato did not stop. Andretti did not stop.
Or Viso.
And, yeah, EJ Viso. So those 3 are up front at the Sao Paulo Indy 300, still under caution. Back in a moment. That was a situation earlier today, as just as the cars were on their pace lap, it started to rain again, so it was declared a wet race, and the track is still wet, but it's not raining, at least in most sections of the racetrack. We're getting ready to go green once again. Kevin Lee has a report from pit lane.
Takuma Sato has the advantage. He is one of those that did not pit, along with E.J. Viso, his teammate, Marco Andretti, who runs second ahead of Viso, and also Sebastian Saavedra. Sato is about 4 laps short, according to Jimmy Vasser. They are hoping things work out in their favor, but they did not want to give up the track position right now, so they'll see what develops, but they're going to need a lot of yellows to be able to get there, or the race ending up coming up a little bit short.
Well, Kevin, we've talked about gambling, and if you're going to gamble with a setup, you're going to gamble with aggressive driving. Why not gamble on fuel, too? Go the whole way.
Absolutely. All right, here we go. Lined up side by side. Takuma Sato, the leader on the left part of your screen. That's Marco Andretti on the right as they get into formation once again. We got some great drivers running up front here. Andretti second, Viso third, Sebastian Saavedra is fourth, James Jakes is fifth, then Rahal. Here we go into turn one. So far, these
watch
restarts.
Viso. Watch Viso for second.
Oh, he runs over the curb.
And Marco went underneath
and Marco
the curb
did the same thing. Marco went to the other side of the curb again, but was that because he had to, because Viso was next to him? That's the third time we've seen that. The only one docked for a penalty so far was Viso. Oh,
and Scott Dixon has spun.
Still running. That's the same place he spun yesterday. That's coming off that first S.
Oh, look at this. Marco. Second place, Viso to the inside of Andretti.
Oh!
Wow,
that was. Wow. Simona Di Silvestro running third in line. However, she is not, of course, on the lead lap.
Tony Kanaan was side by side. Of course, he's laps down. He's got to be somewhat cautious. And it looked like a move by Servia in blue, Telemundo colors.
Where is Will Power? Back in 8th position. Andretti still under fire from
Viso. I was going to say that Viso was on the power early, but look at this.
He's got a good run. Nope.
He can still draft. And remember, this is the same place where he lost brakes and went straight down the escape road into first practice. Is he going to try it on the inside of Marco?
He's got a good position. It looks like he will go to second spot. Oh, Marco will not give up the position. Off the corner they go, and Viso will have second. Wow.
That's the way you race in the rain right there.
KV Racing Technology drivers are first and second, Sato and Viso. And Viso has come from 26th starting spot.
And their teammate, Tony Kanaan, he is laps down, but there he is just going through the frame. Tony Kanaan battling it out. So all three of the KV cars have speed. Unfortunately, we know that Kanaan started with a big deficit. Here's Power in a battle with, and now James Jakes gets himself in trouble.
New sponsorship on that car. Visit Orlando for Dale Coyne Racing. He'll get it turned around and refired.
And Power did get by Franchitti.
So Power up to 6th.
So kind of a battle within a battle, because you see the lead group that are gambling on fuel, and then you have to look back to this group here who pitted. One of those two groups is going to be having the proper strategy.
Yeah. Mike Conway in the 27 car.
10th. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he was, as we indicated, he was running at 3rd position, but in those few laps that they ran yesterday under caution, which counted, he had an electrical problem, restarted this afternoon in 20th position, and is into the top 10.
Taking a look.
Simona De Silvestro, but she, like Tony Kanaan behind her, are laps down. Now she's going for it, just like Tony Kanaan is.
Yep.
Not for position, but why not?
She is 9 laps down. And Marco goes wide, opening up the door for Tony Kanaan and the Firestone onboard camera. Kanaan back in 22nd, also 9 laps down.
So I guess he and Simona are battling for position, 9 laps down. Oh, and now he's going to go straight. Oh, can he stop?
He made it. Kanaan missed the corner, but goes back onto the racetrack.
You know, for people 9 laps down, got to give them credit for not just riding around the back. They're trying.
We've got less than 26 minutes to go in this race.
Although I'm not so sure Andretti and those guys would agree with you on that.
The top 5, Sato, Viso, Andretti, Saavedra, and Rahal in Sao Paulo. The race was postponed yesterday. We are running at Sao Paulo, Brazil today in the INDY300 on board with Vitor Meira. Vitor, one of those drivers involved in the incident, and
Viso and Andretti still battling.
Second position being fought for, but they remain in the same order. Viso second and Andretti third. Now,
here he comes.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, you see that starting to dry out in the groove, which is going to make it. There's still plenty of water to keep the tires cool.
We get down to Kevin Lee, who is standing by with Michael Andretti.
Michael Andretti is calling Marco's race. How close are you on fuel? He's got to talk to Marco for just a second, so we'll hang with him, and he wants to talk to a pit tech right now. So I'm going to let him do his business, and then we'll try to find out whether they can make it or not. One other note on Graham Rahal, who runs in 5th. Not too long ago, it looked like Graham was going to be in trouble. He has pitted 3 times. He came in, then he had to serve a penalty because he came in when the pits are closed. Then he came in again and topped off. He has been told he can use his push to pass, so he might be in position to win this race if the others that did not pit can't make it all the way.
And Will Power just passed Graham Rahal on the track, so Power is up to 5th. Let us point out that the first 4, Sato, Viso, Andretti, and Saavedra, more than likely are going to need a pit stop. And more on that from Kevin.
Okay, Michael, what are you checking with the pit tech about?
Well, Viso was blocking, and so, we just wanted to let him know. I guess they warned him, so.
How close are you on fuel? What do you need to make it the rest of the way without stopping?
We need some yellows. We need the track to either dry out and we go to dries, or we need some yellows.
Okay, pit tech coming back over to confer with Michael Andretti.
And they continue to battle for position.
And of course, anytime as a team owner you see the car that you're trying to pass on the inside half, and in fact, Michael, seems like the team has prevailed. We've just heard from race control. They're going to black flag Viso.
Wow. That's...
Wow.
That's a wow, yeah. What a drive from 26 to 2nd, and they black flag him.
That's where you wish they'd just make him move over and just give up the position,
And that's twice. That's twice that he's been dinged today. He got dinged and had to give that position back earlier by shortcutting the same place, almost in the same fashion we saw 2 other cars. Again, were those 2 other cars forced there? This one here, I guess if they've determined he went to the inside half of the racetrack, which they define very clearly in the drivers' meetings here in Sao Paulo, as they do every race. If you move to the inside half of the racetrack with someone behind you on a braking zone, we're going to penalize you.
Well, we were saying that Sato, Viso, Andretti, and Saavedra will more than likely need a pit stop before this race ends in 20 minutes, and that would mean that Will Power, who's running in 5th, would get the advantage. Kevin?
And we heard Michael Andretti say that he's not happy with E.J. Viso. Feels like he's been blocking. Viso has been told you can't change lanes or you're going to be penalized.
Well, Kevin, maybe you have better information than we do. We were told that they're going to black flag. So if it's a warning, that's fantastic news for E.J. Viso.
There's the black flag right there.
Well, okay, so we had the more current. Sorry, Kevin.
Okay, we told you that Will Power had passed Graham Rahal for position. Here's how it occurred.
Into turn 1.
That put Power up into 5th position.
I see, because they're saying that he's on the inside half of the racetrack and he's making Marco go around the outside. And from what we understand, that was not just that one lap, Kevin?
And Viso just rolled through pit lane, so he has now served the penalty. He's been told you've blocked 7 times, so he's been penalized. He did not come in immediately because they're having some radio issues and they couldn't get the message to him. But now the penalty is served, so Viso was in position to possibly win this race or certainly get a top 5. Now he goes to the back of the line, or at least close to it. I'm not sure how he'll cycle through because remember, this is a different type of pit lane scenario. You don't lose as many spots rolling through pit lane as you do at most other race courses.
And Kevin, I will say there's one other bit of information that you got. Simona De Silvestro, we've talked about being laps down now. Go ahead and get by Marco. He's got, you know, if she's fast and she wants to be racy, Marco left the open passing lane, which is what the complaint was Viso did not do. I was going to say that Michael Andretti gave us one other bit of very important information as Marco tries to come back, is that if the track dries, everyone's going to have to come on pit road and take tires. And so therefore, if you're the gambling strategy and everyone has to come in, you can take fuel and you've been saved.
I just don't think this track is going to dry out enough to put slicks on. I mean, there are parts of the racetrack right now that look really good, but there's also some parts, there's a lot of water on the track. So that's a tough call.
Little over 17 minutes to go in this Apollo Indy 300. It's Sato, Andretti, Saavedra, Power, and Rahal. Back in a moment.
Open wheel drivers now have a defined career path that leads them directly to the IZOD IndyCar Series. The Mazda Road to Indy provides drivers, teams, and sponsors an opportunity to gain valuable experience on and off the track, all with a clear-cut path of progression through 3 development series: the USF 2000 National Championship, the Star Mazda Championship, and Firestone Indy Lights, where drivers compete on the same tracks and venues as the IZOD IndyCar Series.
In IndyCar racing, it's all about speed, and the action happens in the blink of an eye. So you need something that helps you keep up, like IndyCar Mobile from Verizon. It lets you keep pace with in-race audio, up to the second leaderboards, highlights, and even driver tweets. Download it now! Before the season passes you by!
There's a reason why. In 5 years of powering every car in the Indianapolis 500 race, not a single Honda engine has failed. It's not the parts we make them from. It's the part we put in to every Honda.
Okay, you know you're gonna need new tires. It's inevitable, right? So why not get them from TireRack.com? With Tire Rack's online research tools, you'll know you're getting exactly the right tires for you, your car, and the way you drive it, all at a great price. Don't just change your tires, change the way you buy tires. The biggest selection of tires. One more way Tire Rack is revolutionizing the way you buy tires. TireRack.com. Research, buy, deliver, install.
Tony Kanaan makes a pit stop as Takuma Sato continues to lead. He has about a 6-second advantage over Marco Andretti. We have, however, seen that the Andretti team, the Andretti crew is laid out, indicating that he will be making a pit stop very soon. Now, Will Power has moved up another position on the racetrack. That's Sebastian Saavedra, a rookie in the series, up from the Firestone Indy Lights. He passes him for the 3rd position. So Will Power is now 3rd. Saavedra is 4th. And by the way, E.J. Viso, who was penalized, came out in 9th position. There you see the interval between 1st and 2nd. The green and white car of Simona De Silvestro is not on the lead lap. Here's the 2nd place car up Marco Andretti.
And he should hit pit lane because pit lane entrance is in another turn and a half. And we saw just in the background when we came back from break that his team was laying out.
Like you said, we didn't see the tires. I would think they're going to go with brains.
There he goes.
I just don't think this place is dry enough yet to put the slicks on.
All right, Kevin, we'll throw it to you. He's got a long way to go at 50 miles an hour, but here he comes.
Andretti hits his marks. They are Thinking about change? Yeah, they're going to the alternate, softer, quicker tires. These are the slicks. The track is drying, but pit lane is still very wet, so they got the top off of fuel that they needed. He wiggles a little bit as he comes off pit lane, and he's got a long way to go. He was pit in. This is the longest pit lane that we're going to see. He's got 50 miles an hour that he can go all the way through. Marco Andretti finishes his Sunoco fuel stop, and we'll see if he can get a break and get back in the chase.
Well, if he had his hands full before, they're really going to be
no
because,
kidding.
you know, with these slicks, you can see there's some dry there. That's fine. You better stay on the dry. If you get a wheel off the dry with those slicks, you're going to completely lose grip.
Now, Simona De Silvestro in second position there in the screen is actually trying to get by Sato to get a lap back. Now, it puts you, 8 laps down instead of 9,
right.
But, you're going the right direction. So
she'll still be in 20th position, but at least it's a lap back. Yeah.
And you'll notice these two cars.
A statement too.
Sure.
I passed the leader of the race.
You'll notice that these two cars are looking for water.
Right.
You'll see they're looking for the places that are wet to try and keep the wet tires cool. And so when you see people moving around, they have to be careful because you're looking for water, but you don't want the officials to think that you're trying to block.
But the difference between wets, you can run wets on water and a little bit of dryness. With the slicks, you can't run them on the wet at all.
Oh, saw someone else peel off onto pit road. Here comes Power, then Rahal.
Yeah, Rahal has picked up a spot. He passed Sebastian Saavedra. And by the way, Andretti has come out in 15th position. It's still Takuma Sato leading this race, the Sao Paulo Indy 300.
Sao Paulo Indy 300 on Versus is brought to you by Honda, the engine supplier for the IZOD IndyCar Series.
There's Marco, who is in 15th position on the slicks.
He's struggling right there on the slick. I don't think that was the right move to make. It's just not dry enough to have those slicks on.
Yeah. So watch Marco here. Yeah, he's having.
Yeah,
that's tough.
And again, you throw the dice on that, and the driver, you gotta make the call because you're seeing the racetrack. But I think that was. I think that was a tough call to make because there are some parts of the track that are really drying out. You think you could make up enough time on the dry part, but the problem is when you get on the wet part, you lose so much time with slicks.
But you have to think he probably made the call, right?
I would, definitely. The driver's got to make the ultimate call on that one.
Yeah.
You're the one seeing the racetrack and feeling the car.
And Takuma Sato, who was leading the race, had to make a pit stop, relinquishing the lead to Will Power.
But Graham Rahal, what a great move when he got himself in trouble. Remember, he spun and then went ahead as long as he didn't have track position to come in and filled up early, just topped off early. So that strategy, that's very similar to what happened to Mike Conway. Ran into trouble in Long Beach, came back and won it. Nice job.
Boy, it looks like these tires are becoming slicks.
Yes, good.
He's been on them for a long time.
On one of the shots, I was like, hey, he didn't change tires, did he? I'm like, no.
You know what, though, fellas? This is why racing's such a cruel sport. Because look how good Marco ran, and Viso and Sato, and they're not going to be rewarded.
Yep, that's right.
Well, Sato's still listed as 6th.
Yeah, but...
I mean,
Yeah. But, he made a great outside pass for the lead. Marco's driven his best race of the year, and he's going to end up way back.
Their finishing positions is not going to indicate how well they ran and how well they did. First and second right here. Here's Graham Rahal in the red, white, and blue car. And there is Ryan Briscoe in the Penske yellow running in 3rd spot. Franchitti is right behind him with different colors this week. Kellogg's on the side pod and T-Mobile on the yellow rear wing.
That's amazing. Guy was in the tires a little while ago.
Will, let me tell you something, Wally. Will's going to get out of the car and he's going to be slapping his hands together. Yeah, well, I gained some points that time. What do you mean he finished 4th? 4th?
I saw him in the tires.
If they continue to run in this order, the points lead will change once again with Power back in the advantage by 14 over Franchitti.
This, of course, being still 4 position. Servia in blue, Sato in the Lotus colors.
This is for 5th.
Conway That's for position as well. Conway in 7th.
Will Power, meanwhile, has lengthened his advantage to over 4 seconds over Graham as we watch this battle for 5th and 6th.
Now you want to keep an eye on the clock at the top of the screen as well, because there may only be around 3 laps to complete that 6-minute and change left. So there's not much, you know, it says lap 51, but when that clock expires, that's it. So only a few laps to go.
Justin Wilson has had a myriad of problems yesterday and today, and he finds himself up in the top 10, running in 8th positions. James Hinchcliffe, tip of the Stetson to him. He's in 9th, and J.R. Hildebrand, another rookie, is 10th. Then we have Saavedra and Jakes, 2 more rookies that are 11th and 12th.
And you really got, this is the point where you'll see who's managed their rain tires the best at this point, because when you run the rain tires on the dry part of the racetrack, it eats them up. Oh, Sato.
Well,
but like I was saying, you've got to find those wet spots and keep those tires cool, because when you get on the straightaway or these dry corners, it just chews the reins up. So although everybody's on reins, they're probably on different kinds of reins, just depending on how you manage them, how you kept them cool.
Sato looks like he's lost 4 spots by going through that painted area. Hinchcliffe, of course, smelling a loss of momentum, thinking, here comes another spot for me.
Good race, though, for the Canadian rookie, James Hinchcliffe, driving for Newman Haas Racing. I mentioned Stetson a while ago. Robin, is it going to be cool or what to have a double header at Texas Motor Speedway?
Well, I think that's, you know, you and I remember the 70s at Michigan and Trenton, and those were some of the best races in the world because they were sprint races, Bobby. And that's what, you know, one pit stop and everybody ran as hard as they could.
Yep, it's going to be great. Well, Takuma Sato led 23 laps before he gave up the lead. Will has led for 29 laps now as the clock is counting down and the number of laps to go grows very few.
Man, Power's picking him up and laying him down. He's almost 6 seconds ahead now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hats off to the team. They had to come onto pit road when a lot of people ahead of him did not, but they made the right call. You know, so much of Will Power's strategy obviously has been to stay out of trouble. And he has stayed out of trouble the entire weekend. I mean, he hasn't brought it home yet. But he's got to now make the transition to ovals. That's what tripped him up last year. And he was certainly not short on speed last year at Indianapolis, that's for sure. It was the pits that was his undoing.
Down to Kevin once again on pit lane.
Bob, as you know, pit lane is in a location where you really don't see the racetrack. I've made my way towards victory lane, so now I can see the racetrack for the first time today. I'm standing in turn 3. I can see turns 1, 2, and 3. Just saw Marco Andretti come by, and I have no idea how he's making it. Alex Tagliani was right on his rear wing. Andretti just tiptoeing by. The track is nowhere close to dry. There's still small puddles, standing water here in turns 1, 2, and 3. So that's pretty impressive that Andretti has been able to keep it between the lines as we watch Will Power come through turn number 3 right now.
Well, he lost 30 seconds in about the last 5 laps, Marco Andretti has, by putting those slicks on. I think he came out of the pits about between 30 and 35 seconds behind the leader, and now he's 63 seconds. So
yeah, he's
definitely not the right call to put those slicks on.
Last car on the lead lap in 15th position. This is Oriol Servia that we're watching in 5th position. The blue Telemundo sponsored car from Newman Haas Racing. Right behind him is Mike Conway, the winner at Long Beach.
The time remaining now is less than it takes you to complete a lap.
Yeah.
So we know we are definitely in the closing stages right now, because they're running 1 minute 41 second laps, 1 minute 40 for Graham Rahal.
I looked for the white flag last time by for Will Power, did not see it. Look at this. The fastest lap of the race was turned by Simona Di Silvestro. How about that? Down in the 139 bracket.
Nice job.
Yeah.
And passed the leader in the process.
Yep. See the contrails coming off the rear wings, indicating the atmosphere is heavy with moisture. And this time, Will Power will get the white flag, indicating one more lap to go.
And they timed it out properly because the time has not expired, so you couldn't go checkered here. Now is the time to go white.
Paul Blevin waves the white flag, indicating one to go. Here comes Graham Rahal in second position. The interval now is just about 4.3 seconds. Ryan Briscoe running back in third. Good day for Graham Rahal.
And we certainly, when spoke to him yesterday, that he wanted to stay with a dry style setup, and if he survived this whole day with a car that didn't have much of a wet setup and brings it home second, hats off to Graham Rahal. That's a good bit of driving. He had a spin, but they didn't.
So did everybody else.
Yeah, well, of course, Power has stayed clean. He's one of the few.
But you said early on, Jan, if things break right, he could do this whole race and not stop, and he did after those 3 under the yellow.
Yeah, topped up early, didn't need to.
The time has expired, and now all Will has to do is bring it through the last few corners. He's approaching corner number 10 that will lead to the backstretch. Looking down a long straightaway, longer than the straightaways at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Reaching almost 180 miles an hour under dry conditions. We started things yesterday here at Sao Paulo, Brazil, with Will on the pole, and we had to postpone the race until today. He's in the victory hairpin off of it right now. And when it comes to racing on the street and road courses, you simply cannot beat power. Will Power wins here at the Itaipava São Paulo Indy 300. Second position, there's Graham Rahal. Third is going to be Ryan Briscoe. And fourth, Dario Franchitti. The race is finally over, and there still are some raindrops on our camera lens, indicating that this was indeed a very frustrating weekend for some of the drivers. It's always disappointing when a race is postponed from one day to the next, but this was a really, really good event here this afternoon, or this morning, I should say. It's Will Power's 11th career win and his second win of the young season, and his second consecutive win on the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. The race has been run, and Will Power emerges as the victor. Graham Rahal pulling up behind Will. He finishes in second spot with Ryan Briscoe, the third member of the podium.
Yeah, if we can get your helmet off, I'll have you climb straight out. Will Power talked before the race that he was hoping for rain. He had 2 days of rain to negotiate, and obviously did it without any mistakes. Whenever you're ready, just jump forward. Come down, Will. Right here, Will. Go ahead.
9 guys coming.
Sigh of relief. And Power emerges from the race car, and Kevin Lee is there to talk with him in victory lane.
Will Power stands on top of number 12 Verizon Wireless Penske car, celebrates with the fans here in Sao Paulo. He started from the point in every race. Now it pays off. And the Power leap. Well, you've been wanting some good luck. You've been wanting to just not get hit. and you did it today, and that's a pretty big accomplishment today.
Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome race. You know, so many different track conditions, and it went back in the pack there on that stop in the middle, and just happy for Verizon, Meyer, Shell, Honda.
Good job.
There's Ryan Briscoe.
Same, brother, same. Yeah, it's just a great job. Really happy to get the Verizon car in victory lane again. Been on pole 4 times. We've had 2 wins, so it's a great start.
Well, yesterday you were out front, so you didn't have to deal with the spray. Today, because of your early pit stop to come in, you had to trail some other cars. What was that like when you finally had to deal with that?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. You know, I slowly started picking people off. The spray wasn't as bad as yesterday. I mean, it was, you can see that it's sort of dried up a little, but yeah, it was a matter of keeping calm, getting past people without any mistakes, and then pulling a gap to be safe.
You guys came in early. What was the thinking from a strategy standpoint? Did you ever think about trying to go the distance like a few did, or did you want to get in and play it on the safe side?
No, I think the conservative thing was to come in. We'd known that Dario had taken tyres, so he was going to go to the front. So we thought we have to play off him since he's leading the championship. So it's a good strategy by the boys. My boys are doing such a good job in the pits. They're all pumped to win the championship this year, and we just got to keep plotting away here and see if we can gather more and more points every weekend.
4 races, 2 wins. As we mentioned, you've been the quickest in qualifying in all 4 events. How hooked up is the 12 team right now?
12 teams really hooked up. I mean, it's just, you know, it's the second year together, so we're just more relaxed about it, enjoying it, and just going a weekend at a time, not really thinking of the whole picture here. We just plot away, get points, and see what happens at the end.
13 points is your advantage now in the championship on Dario Franchitti. Now you head to Indianapolis. Now you head to the oval stretch. 14 actually is the points lead, I'm now told. You were really pretty competitive on the ovals, just did not get results, and you were better than the results showed last year at Indianapolis. What do you expect this year at Indy?
Yeah, I think that, like I said before, we're all more relaxed on the 12 cars, no question. And, you know, in the last 2 years, we've been in a position to challenge for the win at Indy, so I think we're going to be really fast, going to be fine, and really looking forward to the ovals. I really am. I've been thinking about it a lot, and you know, I can't wait to get on them.
That 9-hour flight back home is going to go a lot better for you now, correct?
Yes, I love it.
Well, 9-hour flight's nothing for somebody from Australia. That's just simply like a commuter flight. Will Power wins here in Brazil.
All right, Kevin, thank you. We still got a lot more interviews to do and a lot more things to do as we continue to celebrate breakfast in Brazil as Will Power wins the Sao Paulo Indy 300. Back at Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Will Power wins the Sao Paulo Indy 300, the 4th race of the 2011 IZOD IndyCar Series. Kevin Lee down there on the front straightaway talks with the 2nd and 3rd place drivers. Kevin?
And we'll start with Graham Rahal. That was adventuresome. You started, I think, restarted 5th today after a good qualifying effort on Friday. Then you had the spin. We thought you were out of contention, but you guys almost stole this one.
Well, it's kind of the same thing as St. Pete when I won in 08. Actually, Will hit me, and I spun, and because of that, we got off sequence. We were lucky that we were quick enough there at the end that we were able to keep up with Will, but not let Ryan close in, because we had to save a lot of fuel. But really proud of the Service Central guys, because they could have been so down on us after the spin. We were trying to play it cool at the start, and unfortunately, because of that, we lost a couple spots. But to recover like this and to leave Brazil in conditions like this with a 2nd place heading into Indy, I can promise you nothing feels better.
Yeah, I'm wondering what this does for everybody's spirits, how much you need a result, and you're one of many that needed a result. It's Power and Franchitti are the only ones that haven't had anything massively go wrong so far this year.
Yeah, I think the Service Central guys, we've had a lot of bad luck. You know, we've found ourselves in situations that I put us in. We've also been taken out a couple of times. So those types of things happen, but unfortunately we're 4 races in now. We needed a result, and we're very fortunate that the race continued today, and we got one, and we're getting full points, and we'll be able to move forward with a good result here, and obviously on into Indy. Indy's the most important thing, so it will feel good coming off this.
I think I'm hearing that you went from 21st to 9th in points, so nice job, Graham Rahal, with a good result here today. Let's find Ryan Briscoe now, who comes home in 3rd as he visits with his crew, and I mentioned the Will Power I understand that he hasn't had a perfect season. He got hit at Long Beach, but still got a top 10 out of that. Ryan, let's talk about your day here. Survival, podium. You'll take it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think, you know, it was good strategy, and we kept our nose clean. There was certainly a lot of havoc going on around me for a lot of the race, but at the end, you know, I got past Dario down into the hairpin, and then I was trying to catch Rahal, but we're doing about the same lap times, and we didn't change wets on that last stop, and I think these other guys probably had slightly fresher tyres, so I was sort of hanging on a bit, but it's a great day for Team Penske. We got the Penske Logistics car in third and the Verizon car in first, so really good for Team Penske.
All right, Ryan Briscoe comes home in third. A good finish for Penske. They started the weekend with their crew not arriving until Friday, a 48-hour travel window because of the devastation in the southern part of the United States. It reminded us of Sonoma in 08 when their transporter caught on fire, and they still finished 1-2. They'll settle for a 1-3 here this weekend, Bob.
Okay, Briscoe finishes in third position. Rahal second, and Will Power wins here in the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we'll have more in a moment. In the Sao Paulo Indy 300, Ryan Briscoe's team are the pit performers, spending a total of 1 minute and 50 seconds on pit lane. Congratulations to the Briscoe crew for being our Firestone pit performers of the day. All right, while we line up some more interviews downstairs, let's do our race recap here. Jan.
And of course, the day started on slicks with it raining. So you're like, okay, just get through the Samba S's here and then go straight to pit lane. I need rain tires because the timing was not ideal at all. But amazingly, everyone made it onto pit road, got the wet tires with no contact really or issues until lap 20. First was Sebastian Bourdais. Couldn't get the car stopped in time. Wasn't damaged, but for some reason climbed from the car. Ryan Hunter-Reay passed that very location of Bourdais, and then whoop, in the same spot as yesterday, identical, knocks the rear wing off for the second time. Lap 25, of course, is the restart. Watch Takuma Sato aggressively around the outside and takes Will Power for the lead. Fantastic driving on a wet setup by Takuma Sato. Unfortunately for him, later on pit strategy would cost him. Lap 29, one of the restarts, and there you get a good look at Viso shortcutting. It doesn't look like the car does come up like we first thought over the curbs. He had to serve a penalty. 3 Brazilian drivers have to go across the paint and take shortcuts. So Viso had to give the spot up while Sato was leading. On 32, Dario Franchitti can't get it stopped. He released the brakes. He got in, got a little rear brake lockup, tried to bring it back, but amazingly, he got that refired and finished this race fourth. Now, pit stops. This was what Will Power was just talking about, a conservative pit strategy. Race with his teammate Briscoe off. That's, of course, Servia in third, then Dixon. These were the cars that took the conservative strategy that paid, because up front, there was trouble for Viso in the fact he got a blocking black flag, and, of course, he had to first do a drive-through, but later ended up having to make yet another pit stop for fuel. And this was the pit stop, fuel only. He did not decide to go for slicks, which turned out not to be a great choice by Marco Andretti. Unfortunately, that gave the lead, at least from the standpoint of Sato, that gave the lead back to Power, who had a flawless day, had one close moment with the walls. Otherwise, he was picture perfect.
So let's take a look now at how they finished. It was Graham Rahal's best finish in second position since his win in St. Petersburg back in 2008. Oriol Servia, his fourth top 10 finish this season. Justin Wilson had his best finish of the season, and J.R. Hildebrand was having his best career finish. The rest of the rundown, we see 15 cars on the lead lap when the checkered flag dropped, with Charlie Kimball 1 lap down in 16th. 3 cars were out of the race at its conclusion, and some very big name drivers back there in the final 5 or 6 positions. The podium consists of Will Power, the winner, Graham Rahal in second position, and Ryan Briscoe finishing in third. Briscoe on your right. We'll be back in a moment with more from the Sao Paulo Indy 300. At Sao Paulo, Brazil, the trophy handouts have begun. Everybody gets a trophy. Well, Lee Simona's Di Silvestro does. She ran the fastest race lap and so gets a trophy. So does Tim Cindric, president of Penske Racing. Ryan Briscoe gets one. Those are really cool-looking trophies, too, aren't they?
Very nice.
There's Graham Rahal's second-place trophy. And needless to say, the biggie goes to the winner of the race, Will Power. You can download IndyCar Mobile only from Verizon. Text Indy to 3406 for video recaps and more after each race. Kevin is with Marco Andretti.
Bob, Marco had an opportunity to win or at least come close. He was running in the top 3 much of the race. You guys gambled that there would be some cautions and you might be able to make it. Sounded like a solid gamble the way cautions were going, but we ran the last long stretch of this race green. How frustrating.
Yeah, it figures, you know. We figured in the rain, I mean, because it's so easy to make a mistake, but the quality of drivers nowadays is awesome, so no mistakes were made, and we went green. I mean, at the time, I guess the strategy made sense, but, you know, after a bit of a roller coaster weekend, you know, my teammates kicked my butt in qualifying. We were able to pass some cars yesterday in the rain. And then it would have been nice to capitalize, but what are you going to do? But, you know, right now I think myself and the Venom crew were coming for Indy.
Once you had to come in, your chance to win, finish top 2 or 3 had gone away, but you went to the slicks and you lost some more time because of that. What was the thinking there? Was that your call? Was that from the pit strategy, hoping that the track would dry out?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not sure whose call it was, but you know, it's at that point it didn't really make sense to go to slicks because then you risk putting it in the wall. I mean, it was pretty diabolical, but you know, what are you going to do? On to the next one.
Well, the next one is Indianapolis, where you have had great success. You're always quick. How excited are you about another opportunity at the 500?
I was ready after the checkered flag last year. You know, to me, there's one thing left to do there, and that's win it.
All right, Marco Andretti heads back to Indianapolis, trying to capitalize and put another Andretti in victory lane.
Thank you, Kevin. Here are the point standings. The top 13 all changed positions. Graham Rahal, the big mover, gaining 12 positions. And Servia is up to 3rd in the standings. Will Power, by the way, has 8 bonus points, while Dario has 2 this season. Will Power leading by 14. Just the difference in bonus points almost doubled his lead.
We have talked a bit about people who ran into trouble, and we've said a couple of times that Dario has not. Well, he had it today. Remember, he got into the tires, managed to get himself restarted again, finishing 4th. So now none of the top contenders have been contact-free, you should say, this season.
Kevin Lee has Takuma Sato at a great race this afternoon.
Very entertaining day for Takuma. You wanted this race to be in the wet, correct?
Very true. We came here expecting to have a competitive, you know, speed, but we want, you know. I mean, honestly, after practice and qualify, clearly we needed, you know, we want a position to challenge on top group in dry. But yesterday, on the wet condition, it made me really happy. I was never driven in a wet in IndyCar, and I never used this wet tire, but I was immediately comfortable and I got a confidence, so I really enjoyed.
Tell me about getting by the Penske guys on track.
It's an exciting moment, really is. I mean, I knew they were really quick, but at least that I was so comfortable and I was really able to manage everything. And once I got on the top, you know, I really did a massive fuel saving. You know, just watch the mirrors and taking a gap, and you know, we were successfully made a lot of fuel save. But in the very last pit stop, strategy issues that we didn't make it, and which caused us a real problem in the end.
Yeah, you gambled on going with the wet setup. That ultimately worked out. You gambled on you might be able to make it. Who would have thought we go the end of this race without yellow? How many yellows laps do you think you would have needed to be able to go without a stop today?
I don't know. Obviously, one more yellow should make us, because I only needed 3 laps. And I did massive fuel saving. So that engineer was sure, but then there is some miscalculation of fuel or something. And honestly, we weren't we didn't need a position to make any gamble. So without anybody's help, we have to stand by yourself, which means you need a fuel, of course. But that's we can say now after the race. So obviously the team crew and team did a fantastic job, outstanding job this weekend, and I really appreciate, very happy with the team. Just didn't happen, didn't make it, which is extremely disappointed.
Still a good run, 8th, along with what he did at St. Pete. Takuma Sato now already has 2 finishes better than anything he had last year in his first season in IndyCar, Bob.
Yeah, his 8th place finish does not indicate by any means the incredible race that Takuma Sato had in Sao Paulo. We'll be right back. The Indianapolis 500 is next on the schedule for the Eyes on IndyCar Series. Our coverage begins with Pole Day, named in honor of Tom Carnegie, the longtime public address voice of the Speedway. We're on from 11 to 2:30 and then 4:30 to 6:30 on Pole Day, Eastern Time. Sunday, the 22nd, Bump Day, noon to 6:30. Then Friday, the 27th, coverage of Carb Day, final practice, Firestone Indy Lights, and Pit Stop Challenge. And then don't forget the 500 Festival Parade at 5 o'clock on Saturday. And don't forget also all month long, Tuesday nights, afternoons actually, at 4 o'clock, IndyCar Open Wheel Weekly. Down to Kevin Lee.
EJ Viso started last, worked his way all the way up to the front, running as high as second. EJ, you were running second when you were penalized, given a drive-through for blocking Marco Andretti. Your take on that call?
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful with the team. We suffered a little mechanical failure, and we put the car in the wall at almost 200 miles an hour. The car got totaled, and we didn't. The spare car was not ready on time to qualify, so we started last. We made it up to second. The team gave me a great car. And basically, I just got penalized with the drive-through penalty, which I consider very unfair. I don't respect that decision from the series. It's a wet race. All I was doing was braking in the dry. I never wave, I never block. And if they say the opposite, I want to see, because I was pretty much doing what everybody was doing. So I got a drive-through penalty and started overtaking cars again, but at that point it was pretty late in the race.
All right, thank you. And unfortunately for EJ Viso, he has to settle for 13th after a good run today, Bob.
Once again, an update on the point situation. 14 is the advantage for Will Power as we go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway over Dario Franchitti. The big mover today, Graham Rahal, gaining 12 positions, finishing in second in the race. And Kevin is still down in the garage area and hoping to get with Dario Franchitti for a word here.
What's taking him so long?
Really, it's not like he's been running around all day and all yesterday too. Okay, Kevin.
Well, Dario, nice jog over. I know you're laughing at me. I can run, and I'm going to run 13 miles next Saturday, but I normally don't have a big pack on me. You survived. I think that's the name of the day.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is the busiest man in show business today. Yeah, it was survival for us. I made a mistake. The visor was a bit fogged up, but I misjudged my braking and went in the tires. Struggled a little bit to get reverse. It's amazing how long 2 or 3 seconds is when the adrenaline's going. Yeah, and the yellow fell right for us. We got back into it, and yeah, we got some decent points, but really just survival. There was some odd moves at that last restart. Graham jumped from the left lane to the right lane and passed 2 cars way before the start finish, so I'm a little confused about that. Had I known, I'd have tried the same thing.
All right, we'll look to see you to Indy, where Dario Franchitti could become a 3-time winner.
For more on the information on the Eyes on IndyCar Series, log on to NBCSports.com. For Jan Beekes, Wally Dallenbach, Kevin Lee, and Robin Miller, I'm Bob Jenkins. See you in May.
Nice job, Bob.